The question has lingered quietly for years. How does an actor, once at the center of some of Hollywood's most enduring films, slowly fade from the spotlight without a clear ending, without a headline scandal, and without a formal goodbye? For Lance Henriksen, the shift was subtle, gradual, and easy to miss until it wasn't. This is the Final Cut Stories. If this story resonates, a like and a subscription help keep these documentaries alive. For a time, Lance Henriksen occupied a rare space in American cinema. He was never marketed as a traditional leading man, yet his presence carried weight. Emerging from a difficult childhood marked by instability and early exposure to hardship, Henriksen entered acting later than most. His rise was fueled not by polish, but by intensity. Casting directors noticed an actor who did not perform menace or authority. He embodied it naturally. The breakthrough came through collaborations that defined entire genres. Henriksen became associated with characters that felt grounded, dangerous, and believable. He worked with major directors, appeared in films that became cultural landmarks, and earned a reputation as an actor who elevated material without demanding attention. For audiences, his face became familiar. For studios, his reliability was valued. For a period, his career trajectory appeared steady and secure. But Hollywood rarely offers permanence, especially to actors who operate outside conventional stardom. As the industry shifted through the 1990s and into the early 2000s, the types of projects being financed began to change. Big-budget roles narrowed. Prestige television favored different archetypes. Henriksen, now older, found fewer opportunities within the system that once embraced him. The work never fully stopped. It changed. Independent films, low-budget genre projects, and direct-to-video releases became more common. To some observers, this looked like a fall. To others, it appeared to be a conscious adaptation. The question remained unresolved. Was this a career pushed aside by an evolving industry, or one deliberately redirected away from the spotlight? The answer is not simple, and the story does not end there. As the mainstream spotlight dimmed, Lance Henriksen did not disappear so much as reposition himself. The shift became visible in the kinds of projects he accepted and the spaces in which he chose to work. Genre films, independent productions, and international shoots increasingly filled his schedule. These were not the releases that dominated box offices or award seasons, but they offered something else. They offered continuity. For many actors, that transition signals compromise. For Henriksen, it aligned with a career-long pattern. He had never been shaped by Hollywood's traditional machinery. His performances were built on restraint, physical presence, and an understanding of silence. Those qualities translated well to smaller productions where character mattered more than spectacle. Directors working outside the studio system sought him out precisely for that reason. At the same time, industry economics were shifting rapidly. The collapse of mid-budget adult dramas left fewer roles for veteran actors who thrived in grounded storytelling. Franchises and youth-driven properties became safer investments. Age, once an asset for authority roles, increasingly narrowed casting opportunities. Henriksen's generation found itself competing in a market that no longer prioritized experience in the same way. There were no public disputes with studios. No legal battles marked a rupture. Instead, the change unfolded quietly. Interviews from the period suggest an actor who remained pragmatic rather than embittered. Work was work. Storytelling still mattered. The platform had simply changed, yet perception often lags behind reality. To audiences accustomed to seeing Henriksen in major releases, his absence from marquee projects was interpreted as decline. Online discussions framed his career as having fallen off, despite the steady output that continued year after year. The distinction between visibility and relevance blurred, creating a narrative that did not fully align with the facts. What emerged was a career existing parallel to Hollywood rather than within it. The industry moved forward. Henriksen moved sideways. And in that space between prominence and persistence, a more complicated story began to take shape. By the 2010s, Lance Henriksen had settled into a professional rhythm that no longer depended on mainstream recognition. Convention appearances, voice work, and a steady stream of genre projects sustained both his visibility and his livelihood. To some, this phase appeared marginal. To others within the industry, it reflected longevity in a business that rarely grants it. There were moments when larger roles resurfaced, brief reminders of what had once been routine. They passed without fanfare. The industry had moved on to faster cycles, younger faces, and algorithm-driven casting logic. Henriksen's value now existed outside those calculations. He was not chasing reinvention, he was continuing. Public narratives often demand a dramatic explanation for absence. A scandal, a fallout, a definitive turning point. In this case, none arrived. The reality was quieter. Careers do not always end. Sometimes they narrow, deepen, and become less visible by design or by circumstance. The absence of spectacle became the story's most defining feature. Henriksen continued to work into his later years, selecting projects that aligned with his sensibilities rather than industry trends. The performances remained controlled, deliberate, and unmistakably his. For those who followed closely, the arc was consistent. For those who did not, the question lingered unanswered. What happened was not collapse. It was not exile. It was a gradual repositioning shaped by age, economics, and personal choice. A career stepping out of the center frame yet never fully leaving the scene. And in Hollywood, that kind of ending rarely arrives with credits rolling. It simply fades to black,